Long, long ago, the world was waiting. It was holding its breath for a special promise from God. He had whispered to his people that one day a king would come. Not a king with a big, shiny castle or a loud, clanking army, but a different kind of king. This king would come to rescue everyone. He would be a light in the darkness, a song in the silence. People listened for the sound of his footsteps, wondering when this wonderful day would finally arrive. They watched and they waited, their hearts filled with a hopeful prayer for the one who would make everything sad come untrue. One quiet night, in a small town called Bethlehem, the promise came true. A young woman named Mary and her husband Joseph had traveled a very long way. There were no rooms left for them in the inn, no soft beds to sleep on. So they found a humble stable, a place where animals slept, and there, under the gentle watch of the cows and the donkeys, a baby was born. This was not just any baby, this was Jesus. He was the promised king, the rescuer the whole world had been waiting for. He was God's love, wrapped up in a tiny sleeping child. Outside on the hills surrounding the town, shepherds were watching their sheep. Suddenly, the dark night sky was filled with a brilliant light. An angel appeared, and his voice was like music. "Don't be afraid, I have wonderful news for you. Today in Bethlehem, a Savior has been born. He is Christ the Lord." Then the sky was filled with more angels, all singing praises to God. The shepherds were amazed. They hurried to the little stable and found everything just as the angel had said. They saw the tiny baby, the king, who had come not to a palace, but to a manger. This was how Jesus came into the world, not with a loud announcement, but with a quiet miracle. He was God's great secret whispered to the world on a starry night. He was the Prince of Peace, born in a place of peace. His first visitors were not powerful rulers, but humble shepherds. His first bed was not made of gold, but of hay. From the very beginning, his story showed that God's love is for everyone, especially for the small and the simple. His birth was the start of the greatest adventure, a story that would change the world forever with its gentle power. When Jesus grew up, he began to travel from town to town. He didn't have a crown or a throne, but people could see he was special. He had a voice that was full of kindness, and his eyes were full of love. He started to tell people about God. He called God his Father, and he said that God loved everyone more than they could ever imagine. He told stories, beautiful stories called parables, to help people understand. He spoke of a loving father who welcomes his lost son home, and a good shepherd who searches for his one lost sheep. His words were like little seeds of hope planted in people's hearts. Jesus taught a new way to live. He said, "Love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself." This was his most important rule. He showed people that love wasn't just a feeling, it was something you do. It meant being kind to the people who were forgotten. It meant sharing what you have with those who have nothing. It meant being a friend to the lonely. He taught that the most important people in God's kingdom were not the rich or the powerful, but the humble, the gentle, and the merciful. His teachings were simple, but they were powerful enough to change everything. He gathered a group of friends around him, called his disciples. They were ordinary people, fishermen, tax collectors, and simple workers. He didn't choose the most famous or the most clever people. He chose people with open hearts. He walked with them, ate with them, and taught them everything he knew. He was their teacher, but he was also their best friend. He showed them how to pray, how to trust God, and how to care for one another. He was building a family, one not connected by blood, but by love and faith in God's wonderful plan. Jesus' message was a message of welcome. He spent time with people that others ignored. He ate with people who were considered sinners and outcasts. He showed everyone that they mattered to God. He said, "Come to me, all you who are tired and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." He was offering a deep, peaceful rest for their souls. He was showing the world that God's arms were open wide, ready to embrace anyone and everyone who came to him, no matter who they were or what they had done. His love was a safe place for everyone. As Jesus traveled, amazing things began to happen. It was as if heaven was touching the earth wherever he went. These were called miracles, and they were signs of God's great love and power. One day, at a wedding party, the hosts ran out of wine. This was a big problem and would have brought great shame. Mary, Jesus' mother, told him about it. Jesus simply told the servants to fill 6 large stone jars with water. When they did, he turned all that water into the most delicious wine. It was his first miracle, a sign that he had come to bring joy and turn ordinary things into something wonderful. Jesus had a special heart for people who were sick and hurting. He saw the pain in their eyes and he wanted to make them well. He met a man who could not see, and with a touch and a kind word, he gave the man his sight back. Imagine seeing the sun and the faces of your loved ones for the very first time. He met a man who could not walk, and he told him to get up and take his mat. And the man did, walking and leaping for joy. These were not magic tricks. They were acts of deep compassion. Jesus was fixing the broken parts of the world, one person at a time. One of the most incredible miracles happened on a stormy sea. Jesus and his disciples were in a small boat when a terrifying storm suddenly appeared. The waves were huge and crashed over the boat, and the disciples were very afraid. They thought they were going to sink. They woke Jesus, who was sleeping peacefully. Jesus stood up and spoke to the wind and the waves. He said, "Peace, be still." And in an instant the storm stopped. The sea became calm. His friends were amazed. Even the wind and the sea obeyed him. He was showing them that he had power over all the scary things in the world. Through these miracles, Jesus was showing everyone who he really was. He was the Son of God, the one with the power to heal, to restore, and to bring peace. He fed a huge crowd of over 5,000 people with just 5 loaves of bread and 2 small fish, showing that God could provide more than enough for everyone. Each miracle was a little picture of God's big rescue plan. It was a promise that one day God would wipe away every tear, heal every sickness, and calm every storm in our hearts for good. They were glimpses of the perfect world God wanted for his children. Even though Jesus brought so much love and healing, some people did not understand him. The leaders who were in charge became angry and jealous. They didn't like his message about a new kind of kingdom. They saw him as a threat to their power. They decided they had to stop him. Jesus knew this was going to happen. He knew that this was part of God's plan, the hardest part of the story. He told his friends that he would have to suffer, but he asked them to be brave and to trust that God was still in control, even when things seemed very dark and scary. So the angry leaders arrested Jesus. They hurt him and they made fun of him. But Jesus never said a mean word back. Instead, he showed forgiveness. As he was hung on a cross, a terrible way to die, he looked at the people who had hurt him and he prayed for them. He said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." This was his love in action. Even in his greatest pain, his heart was full of grace and mercy for the very people who were causing his suffering. It was a love so strong, nothing could break it. Jesus died on that cross. It seemed like the end of the story. His friends were so sad. Their hearts were broken. The light of the world seemed to have gone out. They laid him in a tomb, a cave carved out of rock, and rolled a huge stone in front of the entrance. All hope felt lost. The sky was dark and the world was quiet. But God was working on the biggest surprise the world had ever seen. He was about to turn the saddest day in history into the most joyful one. Death was not going to be the end of this story. 3 days later, some of his women friends went to the tomb. But when they arrived, the giant stone was rolled away and the tomb was empty. An angel told them, "He is not here. He is risen. Jesus was alive." He had come back from the dead just as he promised. He had defeated death and sadness and all the brokenness of the world. This is why Jesus is so important to so many people today. His death was a sacrifice, a payment for all the wrong things in the world. And his coming back to life is a promise of new life for everyone who believes in him. It's a timeless story of hope, a gentle whisper that love is stronger than death.